This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Dustin, so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, today we are going to start with a game per usual. However, I like to change my games in mind for the guest that is joining me. So today you have a personalized game catered for you.
Ooh.
So this game is called Human or AI. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give you some sample prompts of copy that are either human, written, or AI style.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's going to be fun, right? Yeah, this is dangerous.
This is a setup. It's a setup.
No, it's okay. I love these kinds of games because sometimes, especially hearing something out loud, it's very different because a lot of people are looking for those M dashes and such. So sometimes things are easy when they're read, but when you're looking at them, but when they're read out loud, it might sound the same. So this will be a tricky one. So I don't blame you if you get anything wrong. No one blame Dustin. He's very good at this.
Let me just say, I am always this red. This is not embarrassment. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It's okay. I'm also always pink. I'm that is just the color of me. So it's okay. Alrighty, Dustin, are you ready?
I am. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, beautiful. So, first message. Hey, just wanted to check in and see if you've tried our new feature. It's like giving your inbox a superpower.
Oh, God, that's definitely AI.
It's not.
Really? Please stop saying superpower.
It's just badly human.
Superpower.
I agree. I do not. Oh, God. I didn't realize. I don't even think I want to give you the next one because it's so obvious. I don't even.
Oh, no. Don't say that. Now I'm definitely going to get it wrong.
Oh, no. Well, let's I think you'll get it immediately. Greetings, user.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay. That's definitely an alien.
Definitely human. Definitely human.
That's AI for sure.
Oh, yeah. That one I should have thought about a little more. Maybe a little more tricky. Okay, the next one, however. Stop scrolling. Your competition isn't waiting. Click here and watch your sales inbox start doing cartwheels.
Oh, man.
That's a tricky one.
Here's the thing, because AI copies us, and there's a lot of bad copywriting, but I'm going to say this is AI ripping off not good copy.
This is human copy.
I am not doing well at this.
It's okay.
Whole segment out.
I think what's fair, to be fair to you, is that these are things that should not be sent out by humans. However, they are made by humans, which is you're indicating that if something is poorly written, that it is AI, which is a fair assumption. However, humans also write things poorly as well sometimes.
I still write terrible things all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it happens. So I think that I can see your point of view. Okay, next one. We are delighted to announce the synergistic optimization of your user engagement paradigm effective immediately.
Oh, God, that better be AI. And you better not have got that from anything at ManyChat, because I swear.
Yes. I'm happy that this one was AI because I really do hate when people hide behind jargon. Probably something that angers me the most, because I'm like, if your customers can't understand what the heck you do, then you're not going to get many.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm noticing with AI is it does so much telling and not enough showing. So that's usually what I look for, like superpower. I'm like, what's the superpower? That's what's having a superpower isn't what's
Yeah.
going to hook me. It's like, what is that superpower? What does it do?
Yeah, tell me more. Give me a little more detail. Okay, final one.
Uh-oh.
I love this one. Okay, imagine a tiny penguin in a business suit selling your product. That's basically what our automation does.
Oh, that's definitely a human. That's definitely a human. I actually kind of like that. I don't hate it.
I love that. I love that.
Depending on what else is on the page, like the creative, that can be really, really good, honestly.
Jovial and wholesome.
Yeah,
Point. I love that. Well, thank you for entertaining me with this game. I think you had 3 out of 5. I think that's pretty good. And the ones that you got wrong, I think honestly were pretty fair. But anyway, Dustin, thank you so much for joining me today again. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey up to this point, what you're doing today, a little bit of everything, maybe a fun fact, to let us know a little glimpse into your personality outside of your professional role, and everything that you think is relevant.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I am a manager for campaign content at ManyChat right now. And this has been quite a journey for me to get to this place. I've been doing this for, oh my gosh, since I was 26. I'll turn 45 in 2 days. So 19 years.
Congratulations.
So I've done just about everything. I got my start, got lucky, and got to write for a paper in San Antonio. Did some like nightlife coverage. I was a bartender for 11 years, so that made total sense for me to talk about booze. I wound up getting my first syndicated column, which was all about like educating people on like cool drinks, like Manhattans, and like giving fun like background on why they do these things, and like just like progressed from there. And got to write for some cool companies. I wrote for Thrillist. Like right as they were getting into kind of their heyday. I've written for the Chive, where we did a lot of memes, but I also got to like really got into script writing there. And unfortunately, COVID rolled around while I was there, so I got laid off, and it was just totally like a monetary thing. But I decided to take advantage of that, and I went into UX, and I did nothing but UX for a year. And I will say 100% unequivocally, that's like the best thing I've ever done for my career, just because it was a time when I really needed to recenter on the customer and how I apply their voice and their research about them and what their expectations are. And it's been like the best thing I've ever done for my copywriting career. And I went and worked on for a publishing company. I've worked for a men's health company. I've done freelance. I run my own business. I have done contracts. So I've done just about everything. I like writing. I'm super lucky that I get to do what my actual second passion was. I always wanted to be a firefighter, and I actually became an EMT and did courses, extraction training, submitted application. But unfortunately, you cannot run into burning buildings when you have a hearing aid on the side of your head. They frown upon explosions. So they were like, you can't do that. And I was like,
bit fair.
Yeah. So I went back to school, got my degree, and the rest is history, as they say.
Darn. I'm sorry about the firefighter thing. That's so sad. It's your dream.
Totally fine.
You can watch a lot of...
who knows where I would be, anything could have happened, but I have 2 beautiful kids, a great wife, a wonderful job, so I'm in a great place.
Yeah, no, that is a really great phase. And it is a little daunting and terrifying to be a firefighter and have a family. So I think that, maybe dodge a bullet there, maybe dodge a fire, for lack of better phrasing, but that is really, really awesome. And I want to talk about both of these professional careers maybe a bit separately, but first kind of like how they involve each other. So as the founder of Dooling Copy, you've written for various brands and formats. How do you bring your independent copywriting sensibility into the larger institutional voice, which is ManyChat, which are like I see very differently?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I think that sometimes you just get lucky and you land at a brand and their voice really just aligns with how you like to write. So I'll say in regards to ManyChat, I'm super lucky because the brand voice is pretty much how I write. I was brought in kind of for that reason, very conversational. And like we talked about earlier, we like to bring in some storyfication, so more showing, less telling. And we really like to leave out the B2B kind of jargon that even, non-B2B companies seem to be falling into. And I think that's a big proponent, or that's a big thing that AI is driving, just so much BTB language. But I also find that for me, the most important thing that I do to get into a brand voice is really listen to what the customers are saying. So I think companies that are doing it right are building their brand voice around the way their customers are speaking, because it's a way to align yourself with your customers and make them feel heard and make them feel like, you're working with them. So the first thing I typically do when I go somewhere, if they have sales calls, I'll listen to sales calls and see how the people are talking about the product, how they're interacting with it, what they're saying, the jargon they're using. If they're using jargon, then in my opinion, that's the best way to kind of center your voice in a place that's going to resonate with them. And so if I go somewhere and I find that the voice isn't really lining up, then rather than just acquiesce to that voice that doesn't seem like the first thing we can do is say, hey, we need to go back and revisit this. So we need some landing page rewrites. We need to start thinking about how we're doing our emails and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a double-sided question, because if their voice isn't landing and it's not correct, then I'm not going to just go into it. First thing I'm going to do is say, this needs to be worked on. But to me, it's all about listening to the customer and hearing how they're talking and just applying that to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important because, and I just had a conversation earlier today, actually, with someone that talking about how even though clients are your focus, or many businesses' focuses, for whatever reason, it feels like the way in which they think is sometimes disregarded. Because people, I think, go into their business or creating their business agency, whatever it may be, and have this vision of what it should be. And they're kind of blindsided by the idea that some people see them differently or want things that they have, but they're not properly putting out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and especially when you've been somewhere for a while, you're really, really close to the product, it's hard to lose that speaking from the other side of the coin, like people that don't know all about your product. They don't have your KPIs and your OKRs. So they're not driven by anything other than what your product can do for them. But it can be really, really hard to detach yourself from, I wrote this really cool line that I really, really like. And for you, it makes total sense. But, I read something this morning, and I don't always agree with this, but if you have to explain a headline, it's not doing the job. Depending on what you're writing for, I don't always agree with that, but that kind of applies here. Like if your headline is serving you and not your customer, then you're failed as a copywriter. And I always go back to, as much as this pains me, like David Ogilvy saying, the only real measure of the success of a copywriter is sales, period.
Yep.
Is your copy selling? And if it's not, then you're unsuccessful. It doesn't matter how funny it is, how cute it is, how many awards you win, how many LinkedIn followers you get. That's not the measure of success. That's a vanity metric that you are placing on yourself. And it's not for the company, who's just who you actually serve. And then your company serves the customer. And I also always tell people, when I was running my own business, I would tell people emphatically up front, I work for you, but I write for your customer.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really great distinction to make, because that is something that should be held of high regard and of most importance, but is unfortunately maybe disregarded more than we would like. People who are centered in that opinion. Speaking of these parameters that you might be given if you're working with a specific industry, company, or whatever it may be, are there specific constraints? Maybe you can talk about how working with ManyChat is that you lean into creatively that you think are helpful. Because I think that a lot of times when people talk about constraints, they talk about them stifling creativity, but I don't know if that's always necessarily true.
No, man, I think that 100% bumpers and constraints are the best way to get to your best creative work the fastest. It's just sometimes it's a character count, sometimes it's a time constraint, sometimes it's any number of things. It's a specific audience you're trying to hit on. You're going to get to your best creative work by working within those constraints, because we all know this. When we work in the ether, we come up with great stuff. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. You write these amazing lines. You're like, holy crap, that's such a good line. But it's not, again, serving the customer or serving the purpose of the ad. It's just a really, really cool line. And I think a lot of this you see in the advertising industry these days is people just come up with a fun line and they're like, hey, now we can build something around this. But there's always this disconnect of like, why, like, what is the purpose here? Like, this is fun and I laughed, but it doesn't make me want to engage or do anything with it. Like, cool ad. I'm an ad person, so that appeals to me. But if people that aren't into marketing and ads, they're just going to go, oh, neat, and move on. So I kind of lost my track there, but to make sense goes with this argument. But yeah.
No, but I want to use a specific example of one of the pieces that you've written. So like Step Right Up, a masterclass on TikTok attention making.
I think that to me, I like having like character and word constraints specifically. Like I love doing hero work on landing pages, and I love with our team at ManyChat, we have brand experts and they'll give us messaging that's like, hey, this is all the messaging there. These are all the things we want to say. These are all the features we want to highlight. Oh, and you have 6 words. And to me, it's like, holy crap. The funnest thing for me is like solving that puzzle of, obviously, I owe these stakeholders something, and the subject matter experts want me to say certain things from the product side, but also I'm beholden to the customer, and this has to actually convert. So the more I feel like constraints I get from like my SMEs and my brand team, and they're like, has to stay on this, the easier it is for me to like scale down that creative space, which allows me to get to like the quality creative within that space sooner. Like if you're just like, hey, write a headline for Ford, I'm like, which car? Like what? Like where is it? Like what? Like I can write a badass headline about Ford, but who is it for? Like everybody? So it's for nobody really. So yeah, like the more granular information that I have about like who the customer is, like the placement, even all the way down to like character counts and number of words. Like if you show me where it's going to appear on the page, like, hey, it's going to be next to this graphic. So it kind of needs to play with that. The more honestly that you can funnel all that down for me, the easier it's going to be. And also the more it's going to cut down on the back and forth. Because we all know like final underscore, no, really, final underscore, final, like 2 underscores maybe is my maximum. We get in the 3rd underscore and I'm like, okay, this is out of control. We're starting over again.
No, I appreciate like that outlook, because I think that constraints are looked at negatively sometimes, but I think that it almost gives you the ability to think more innovatively and like also creatively, because you have like, you can let your imagination run wild when you don't have constraints, but at the same time, you might also be stifled by the ability to be able to think of anything, because I don't know.
It's similar to what is it? It's choice paralysis. So you start coming up with all these great ideas, but without constraints, it's harder to know like what is the specific direction I need to go to. And you get to that point, like we all will throw out a great line and be like, this is close. And usually it's the constraints that will take a close line and make it a killer line. So like if I specifically need like a word in my headline, that's amazing. Or if I specifically need to mention a or multiple features in my subheader, amazing. Because then I can build and construct around that, and the whole thing works more synonymously when there's like less disconnect. And one of the first things I did when we went to ManyChat is we had to rewrite a bunch of meta ads that we had hired an agency for. And I don't know if you know how PMAX works, but it's like they're pulled from 3 different copy placements, and it's all random. You don't know which copy is going to line up, and they hadn't really taken that into account. So we would have creative, a headline, a description, and primary copy, and like none of it went together. And so like the more we're able to like funnel things in and like be like more intentional in our creative, and the more constraints that lead us into the intentionality, the better off and the less likely stuff like that is to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with different metrics that you're kind of considering for these kinds of things, how do you make sure content for your campaigns have like this meaning beyond performance? Like what is like the sole metric for you? Yeah,
I think that, and this will contradict kind of what I'm saying, but it all makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Is like for me, I start with a big idea, and it's how do I take the big idea for this campaign? Like right now we have a huge one at ManyChat. It's called Misconnections. And it's about like, we looked into it, and essentially creators are missing 70% of their opportunities on Instagram. And it's not because of overwhelm. It's just, they don't realize what they're missing. They don't see it. They don't know like, hey, this DM could have been like your next big collaboration. And so like getting those kind of insights and that specificity and being able specificity and being able to get granular about like even just saying that 70%, you're missing 70% of your opportunities. So it's all about like that big concept. Okay, now what is like the actual granular information? And the granular information to me is part of those bumpers, is part of those constraints. Okay, now this is the real big granular information that people want, the real specificity. How do I work that in? So they're like, oh shit, that's me. So I always start with like big idea, opportunity to add delight, because I think everything should add up delight, because I want to be rememberable. And then what makes them say, that's me, and either like, uh-oh, or hell yes, So like I try to always like work those things. So a big idea, which will really usually inform like the opportunity for delight, like whether it's like a trope that I lean into, whether it's like a rhyme, or whether it's just something catchy or, pithy, like whatever it is, like those two go together. And then it's bringing in that final aspect, which is like, what is that real specific granular information that people either go, wow, or, really like draws them in.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of elements to that are important, specifically with like where the data is confirmed, like what you need to consider when creating that with the parameters, but also like kind of seeding a little personality into there. Yeah. Like, there's pride that comes with, putting something out there that, you're like, that's I made that, and like that's right. And I think that's something that obviously that shouldn't be the utmost importance of, but you should also be like proud of what you're creating, and if you're not, then maybe that's not like representative of the company or yourself. Well,
yeah, I think that like a lot of it comes down to, and I think that a lot more of us struggle with this than are willing to admit it, but just respecting and bringing in your other stakeholders and your other SMEs. Like we have an amazing creative team here, and there's pretty much somebody at every level. Like if I'm working with our paid and growth team, like the experts there, and, like I'll hand over a script to like our creative strategist for paid, and he'll almost always go in and start tweaking things. And so we have a great relationship. And so like we actually just we're talking about this the other day, like he went into my document and was just changing stuff. And I was like, hey, just make sure that you're dropping comments for me. Yeah. So that I know why you're doing this. Like I know that you have all this experience working with influencers and creating UGC content, which is amazing. And I want you to use that expertise, but I want to learn it too.
Yeah.
So it's like always having that equal like give and take and that back and forth. And I think that's probably the most intrinsically important thing, is to have those people you trust on your team, or that where you can go and get that stuff and get that great, like important feedback that's really, really constructive, and that you take it in a constructive way and be open to it.
Yeah, it's really important to be able to learn and grow in your career. And I think that a lot of people disregard feedback from other places because they're like, oh, well, they're not an expert in my field. Right. So yeah, you don't know what I've been through. But it is like, it is important because there are people in different professions all over that are going to be reading your copy. It's not like your copy isn't for copywriters. They're for regular people that are, not that you're irregular, but they're for your average person that, can be any kind of different occupation depending on the industry that you're, providing for.
If you want to write look at me stuff, then write for yourself. Write a movie, write a book, write short stories. That's your look at me. When you're copywriting, it can't be about you. And like, I even struggle with this at times, like having ego about what I write. And I'm like, so married to something. And I'm like, God, this is just such a good line. And, like the people work with it, be like, yes, that is a great line. And if it was closer to the point of the campaign, we would use it, but it's just a little off. And this is why. And this is how we get to where it is, and just trusting that. But again, that comes back to what we're talking about too, is constraints. Like, was there a constraint I could have had early on that could have kept me more on that path? And the more constraints I have, the less likely I am to veer into these paths. Like, good, but not right. Right, but not good. And then like our CMO, Ito, is a very big on good and right. And like, how do we get down there and make sure we're on that path?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And that's really important to get feedback so that you can get to that place where like everyone is proud and happy of what it is. Like, obviously you can't always make everyone happy, but to be able to have that ability is always helpful. And like your team should be able to help you get to that place.
Absolutely.
And exploring more of like your personal touch to your work, you kind of talk a lot about imposter syndrome and like creative anxiety. How do you nurture your own creative energy while leading a team? Like how do you help your team feel the same way maybe you want to be feeling?
To be honest, like it's kind of a catch-all and it's a kind of a cop-out, but it just starts with hiring. Just making sure that you're getting the right person that works with the way you work and you can get along together and there's constructive feedback going back and forth. God, it's tough, but I think for me, there's some rules that I have specifically. Like I don't do tropes. I don't do references. I do tropes. So references are not national. Tropes are like, they're not like, references are usually very specific to certain groups of people, certain like regions, and tropes are a little bit more headcanon. So I avoid references and lean into tropes more. I think what I mentioned earlier, this is a really big one for me. Like if your copy does not create delight or something memorable, then you're failing, because so much of what we do as copywriters isn't about taking someone from point A to point B right now. It's about them being at point A right now, not ready to be at point B, but when they are, they remember us. And if I'm creating an element of delight, something memorable, something that makes them say, like before, oh, that's me, then when they are ready to go from A to B, like we'll be that bridge. And so that's an important thing for me is, and I bake this in everything, is like add delight, like add an element of delight. I don't care if you write an email that's all copy and it's 3 lines. Like you have the opportunity to add delight, not just like to your email, but to that person's day. Like make them remember it. And I think if we treated everything, every piece of content, every piece of copy, every ad as a brand affinity opportunity, a chance to build our brand rather than just convert. And like I know all my paid friends are going to be like, damn it. But not just converting and using that direct response language, but creating an opportunity to delight them in like being memorable and being a part of that headcanon is the most important thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it should be valued of like making someone feel something, like maybe if it's not exactly delight, but like an emotion in which you are trying to appeal to, because that is exactly what words are supposed to be doing most of the time. I think it's like if you're being very hollow with your messaging, or you're just being maybe informative or whatever it may be, that's not really going to be eye-catching in the noise.
I've also tried to really, it's so easy and there's a time and a place for it, but like negative copy that creates negative consequences or negative relationships is like, I don't really like doing that. I don't like using shame at all. And for that reason, I'm not really big on using FOMO. I think we have a problem with FOMO. I think like, honestly, like there is a mental health issue that is attached to FOMO because of the bombardment that adds, like the bombardment we get on every channel, and everybody pretty much lives with constant FOMO. And that is frightening. It's terrifying. I don't want to get people FOMO. I want to get people more like, hey, this is this cool, fun thing we had. You should come and do it and you should come and use it. And here's why. Not like, oh, all these people are using this and they're making way more money than you. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, that's not the angle. Like, why would I want to add more of that to someone's day? So that's something I really try to avoid. And like, even like, again, going back to my paid and my growth team, like, I'm like, too much FOMO. And they're like, not possible. And I'm like, absolutely possible. You're making people feel bad. Like, I don't want them to feel bad. I want them to be excited to use us, not feel bad that they're not. So for me, like, there's some old school tropes, and FOMO is one of them that I really just try to lean away from because it's just overdone and it's not done well anymore. It's just like a gimmick now and a catch. It's like I feel like a snake oil salesman when people are like, more FOMO. And I'm like, no mo FOMO.
No, I definitely agree. I completely agree with you. I feel like anytime I feel FOMO, I try to think of back in a certain era, we didn't know about everyone doing everything all the time, and I think that was probably healthier. There's certain things that maybe we should know about, and it's good to have word being spread, but the printing press is evil, and this is why it has created the internet thus. And we all know too much all the time, and that's why we get FOMO all the time. And now people are taking advantage of it.
Ramifications of marketing and advertising. Is it's just super important. The more we get bombarded, the more we're inundated, like advertised with everybody, the more important is like that we're thinking about the ramifications of everything we say and do and how it's going to treat people after they're done engaging our ad. If someone gets done engaging with an ad I write and they don't feel great, that sucks. I don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah, 100%.
See an ad and be like, hell yeah, be upbeat. Like, maybe it's a fart joke. I don't know what it is, but something makes them like, hey, that was funny. I can't believe they did that. I would rather do that.
Yeah, and I think truly good and attractive things do not need that element. I think that that's like part of it too, is it's like if your product is really so good, then everyone should want it. Like everyone should want it. Not because everyone else has it, but because they want it because it's cool. Like, I don't know. There's, if you think about like, silly little studies like Labubu's, like that, people do want that because they see that everyone else has it, but they've never used marketing that's like everyone else has this. They've done, like specific things of like, maybe they're feeding off of FOMO and the idea that they have limited drops. But there's elements of kind of maybe using that mentality, but not directly making someone feel awful about themselves in advertising.
You hit on it when you said like, so much of it is about your product. There's like, will be some disagreement within the copywriter and ad marketing industry about like what copywriters should do. And some people think copywriters are a big part of demand gen, and some people don't. And to me, I don't think my job is so much demand gen. Like your product should fit a niche. The niche should create the demand. And my job is to remind the people or like be the connector between those two things. Like you want this and you need this already, but here's why and here's what it can do for you. Yeah. I'm not creating the demand. I'm just bridging a gap. And so I think that that's a big thing that a lot of people argue about. And there's two sides. For me, that's how I feel.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that I think it's very important to know, like who you are as a professional in general, but like also to define your moral and ethical standings are really important in a professional career. Some people do not always have the luxury of being able to define those things, but it is really lovely to have them and know like what you want in that area, because you'll probably get more projects that you enjoy doing.
Doing what you like. We always do. I mean, we've all gone through this. Every writer has gotten a write for a product like, oh, I love this. Like, this is so fun. And then it just comes out like what you write is better because you're engaged. And so, I mean, the climate right now is such that I would never tell anybody, oh, quit that job and get something that's better for you, because that's not realistic. But find a way to, and this is an important lesson for like, as you're trying to engage your customer, like if you can't find a way to make that product like exciting and something like, if you can't come up with the problem you're solving that's so intrinsic, and if you can't come up with like whatever we say we go 3 levels deeper. So like, so what? If you can't get to a third, so what? If you can't get to the benefit of the benefit, you need to go back and rethink all of it, like the positioning of your product, where you are in the industry, your messaging, like who your target audience and customer are, because there's some kind of disconnect, because everything that I sell or everything that I put my words to, there's always an added intrinsic benefit to it. Like Porsche and Volkswagen used to be so amazing at this. Their ads would skip over the first benefit. So like you would buy a Porsche, and they would go immediately to like, they had one famous ad, which was something like, it was like an excuse to leave your kids at home because it only has 2 seats. Like, oh, finally, like your excuse to get away from your kids. And I'm like, That probably wouldn't fly in 2025 because there's some other things going there, but
At the
that's
time.
a human truth. It's a big benefit that creates a human truth. And if you can create a human truth that people are like, oh, yeah, then you're going to get like, oh, and there's another one that's like the Volkswagen van. And it's like, the joke is like, oh, add about how many like women you can carry in your Volkswagen van, like how many women you can pick up. Again, not going to fly in 2025, but it's that intrinsic human truth. It's that benefit of benefit. And I feel like I always try to get there. A lot of people call it like multiple levels. I think Shlomo calls it like ask so what 3 times. And that's great. And I always want, what's the benefit of the benefit? Now, what's the benefit of that? And Dan Nelson's really good about that. If you get his book, he talks a lot about the benefit of benefit. And I think that's like an Ogilvy tenet as well.
Yeah, and I really like the case studies in which you kind of referred to there, because there is so many things that you have to be able to find more than one reason that you're valuable, because if you can only find that one thing, then maybe you're not as valuable as you think you are, or maybe you're just not thinking about how potential clients would look for you and why they would look at you.
Well, yeah, that's so important. And I would go back to kind of what we're doing right now with ManyChat. And I mentioned the misconnections thing and how it will be super easier for us because of the feature itself and what it addresses to say, to spin the whole thing as like, you're buried under all these messages and you can't get to them. But that's not the problem we're solving. And so it's really, really important that the problem you're solving has some intrinsic human value to it. And our problem we're solving is like, hey, you're missing them because you don't realize like what's in there. And you could probably get to them if you realize how important all these messages are. But if you can't, well, we answer all of them for you. Not because you're too busy, but because you're going to focus on the things that need more of your time and deserve more of your time. So it's just like more of a human truth than a catch-all of like, oh, you're just buried. Like, fuck, everybody's buried, dude. Like, we're all buried every day. Like, whatever. That's not a human truth anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's something that, there, especially if it's a common problem, then you definitely need to think of other ways in which, make you stand out from the rest. And since we are a little over time, but I do want to talk about something that I think is kind of helpful to the community, if you would say, for not that all of this isn't, but what do you feel is if someone was trying to break into your career, right? What do you think is the best piece of advice that you would offer them that maybe you wish you knew when you started, or something of that nature?
Yeah, so this won't apply to when I got started because the market was completely different and tools were completely different. And I'm going to catch a lot of hell for this. But you need to know how to ethically use AI. You need to know how to work it into your day to handle the mundane tasks, things that are repetitive. Like we talked about when we were talking about, getting in this interview, like I will legitimately use it to do some of the ideating I used to do that would take me hours, sometimes all day, which would be applying rhetorical devices, like different rhetorical devices to the copy and trying to get to that delight, and now I can have AI I can be like, hey, pick the 7 most popular rhetorical devices in advertisements. Okay, here's the copy I've written. Now apply, give me 3 versions of this for each rhetorical device. Mm-hmm. And then it just jumpstarts my brainstorming. I never go, oh yeah, that's the one, because it's never, but it'll get me there so much faster. So I think and like I said, this is going to be super controversial, but if I was a writer, a copywriter specifically starting out right now, it is absolutely intrinsically valuable that you know how to use AI in an ethical way that you're okay with, that doesn't make you feel like you have to hide your computer when you're doing it, that you can sell so that you can keep up with the speed and the output that you're going to have to be able to do now. Because when I started, I could write an article a week. Make good money, editors are happy. That is not the case anymore. Unless you work at a high-level editorial place or have those longer deadlines, you're needing to produce a blog a day at the least in many places. For me, I some days will have to sit down and write, God, if I have to do PMAX ad placements and meta ad placements, I might write 300 lines of copy in a day. So there's absolutely no way that I could do that without AI. But with that said, there are lines and there are things that I won't use it for specifically. And I think it's really important. I think that that's a personal thing that everybody has to come to grips with themselves. So that's why I say like ethical use of AI for you, like what you think is okay. Like I don't ever pull images from AI. I never do that because I don't trust it. Like I said, I never pull copy directly from AI because I don't trust that. And then I always will kind of do a little bit of like a research or like a search on something. And I'm like, is this like almost completely ripped from somewhere else? And then I'll also 100% always verify the sources that AI gives me, because we've all run into this. It'll like hallucinate and give you a stat and you're like, where'd you get that? Oh, I just made that up. And it's like, holy shit. So get as much of that information from your actual SMEs as you can, the granular information. Don't go to AI for that. But go to AI when you have that and say, okay, now I need to take this four Notion pages and I need to write a 7-word headline. And I needed to, stop the scroll, engage people emotionally, hit on a human truth, like do all these things. And that's where I will start ideating. And I will use like that, either rhetorical devices or something. And I'll just have AI start spitting out lines. And it used to say like write 100 lines of copy to get to one good line. Well, some of that is true with the writing and the connection your brain makes to the writing and the typing. That's absolutely true. But I think you can jumpstart that process with AI. And I personally do think that that's ethical. So that's what I would say to copywriters starting out. Get good with it. Figure out your lines and understand where it's going and the best ways to use it. We have like our own GPT at ManyChat now that I can just ask questions. Any research, all the SME knowledge, like all of our customer data is in there, and we can use it for that. And I think that that's a great use for it as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really fair point, because it's unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you believe, it's not going away. So, and it's only going to get more advanced. And of course, everyone kind of needs to learn how to incorporate it in their workloads at this time, because the expectation of output is going to increase more and more as it gets more advanced. And you might be left behind if you do not know how to use it in some fashion to be able to increase that. And maybe that sucks a little. But it's also important and really sound advice. Also, where you mentioned like moral and ethical concerns about that specifically. Yeah, like do it within your comfort zone. If there are certain things that you don't believe like you should be using it for, then don't do that, as long as it doesn't impede on your ability to meet your deadlines on a regular basis. Then I completely agree with what you're saying. It's just, you just need to learn how to use it effectively in a way that works for you. And that I think is really great. Trusting
your human instincts, and like I don't write anything that goes straight out. So there's other people going to see my copy. And there's been times that I've 100%, like we did this the game at the beginning of this, I've written something and someone was like, did I write this? I'm like, no, man, what the hell? But you know what that tells me?
I love M dashes. Don't be mean.
Go back and rewrite that. And don't use AI.
No, exactly. Nah. Yeah, people can pick it out now, so maybe not. But Dustin, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an absolute pleasure. This was full of really, really useful knowledge that I think for copywriters specifically. We don't have as many on the show because normally we're talking about marketing or creative, and it was really exciting to have you on the show because one, I got to learn some things, which is selfishly my favorite part of doing the show. But I think that this will be incredibly valuable for people watching.
I'd love to come back and talk about anything you want. You just might want to give me more time because I'm long-winded.
No, you did an incredible job, and do not worry. We covered a lot of things that I was planning on, so there's no don't worry about that at all. But this was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you guys for watching. I hope that you had a great time. Please check out Dustin in the description, and check out other episodes.
Don't send me messages hating on me about AI, please.
Don't send any mean messages to Dustin. I'll find you. But thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.